Welcome back to Ghost Stories, the podcast that shines a light on the people and stories here at Kaukauna High School, home of the Galloping Ghosts. I'm your host, proud principal, Aaron Herm. Today's episode is a little different from our other shows. Instead of highlighting something coming up here at school, we're talking about an important topic that affects every single student and family, and that is online safety. Being a parent today is no joke. Trying to keep up with all the apps, the trends, the slang, the privacy settings, it's all a full-time job on top of the actual full-time job of being a parent. And you hear stories in the news, unfortunately, all the time of kids being exploited online, falling victim to a scam or sextortion, or being pulled into unhealthy social dynamics with social media. It can be overwhelming and frustrating, and especially when it feels like things are constantly changing. That's why I'm so grateful to welcome Detective Lieutenant Mike Sewall to the podcast this month. Mike is a Kaukauna guy, and he works with the Winnebago County Sheriff's Office and serves on a federal task force focused on internet crimes against children. He was our guest speaker at the most recent family engagement night, and his message was incredible. Unfortunately, the weather was not good that day, and it was a tough night to be out driving, so our turnout was not as good as we hoped, and we knew not everyone who wanted to hear his message could make it. So we're bringing that message to you here because every parent and student deserves to have this information, and every kid deserves the kind of protection and support that Mike's advice can help provide. In this episode, we'll talk through the most common online threats that kids face, how to make platforms like Snapchat and Instagram safer, and what to do if something feels off with an online interaction. Mike is going to give you practical steps you can take without needing to be either a tech expert or a helicopter parent. So enjoy the interview. All right. I am here with Detective Mike Sewall. Mike, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We are so happy you're here. You delivered such a great message at our family engagement night last month. But unfortunately, the weather that night was not great, and I think that might have prevented some people from coming, but we want everybody to be able to hear your message. So this is awesome that you're here.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I appreciated coming out that night despite all of the crazy weather that we had.
Yeah, I think our whole staff was there, and our staff, I still hear conversations about what you mentioned that night. So anyway, let's share the message. So first of all, can you talk a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a detective lieutenant with the Winnebago County Sheriff's Office, and I'm also a task force officer with the federal agency out of Milwaukee. So we deal with all child exploitation crimes throughout the state, specifically online. So it's internet crimes against children. We call it ICAC in law enforcement. That's been my specialty since I got into my career starting at age 22. So it's all I know. It's all I've ever done. So I've got a lot of experience. And I love to do those kinds of talks with parents and students and faculty because there's a lot of the things that we talk about, people don't have a great understanding of it. And especially from my point of view, someone who comes in the investigative world and looks at things like that.
Awesome. And then the other neat thing about you, this is Ghost Stories. You're a ghost, right? You have a Kaukauna connection.
I am. So I coached football here for 5 years. Me and my family live in the district. I don't work in the district. I work in Winnebago County. But I do have a lot of ties here, and I've come to love this community a lot. So that's why it was also really important for me to be able to share, some of those tips and pointers and experiences that I've had to students and families right here in my community. I think that's the most important thing I can do in my job.
Awesome. And we definitely appreciated it that night, and we appreciate it right now. I guess one of the things before we get into tips and things like that, one of the things that I found really interesting was you kind of talked to us about your day-to-day and the things that your job entails. Can you tell everybody about that?
Yeah. So when I went to college, I never thought I'd be doing what I was doing now. So my day-to-day is interesting because you never know what you're going to come across. We receive cyber tips from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. And for those that don't know what those are, all of the social media platforms, Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, you name it, they have a way of kind of policing their own platform. And when something happens on those platforms, they can kind of harvest some of that data and send it to the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. And what NCMEC does then is they figure out, okay, where is this locating back to? they package up that tip and they send it out to the appropriate jurisdiction. So if it comes to Winnebago County, or even sometimes just in the state of Wisconsin, I might get that tip. And my job from that point is to investigate what happened, who's at fault, who's my suspect, who's my victim, and follow up the best that I can. And now that could be inappropriate communication online. It could be inappropriate pictures being sent online. It kind of runs the gamut. And so we could get that any day. We could go on a drought and not have one for a month, and then all of a sudden I could get 5 or 6 in a week. And then we're sitting there trying to deal with all these different tips and manage the victims and try to hunt down suspects and come to a closure with all of that. So that's a big part of our job, and those tips take kind of a long time to hash out and investigate.
Outside of getting those tips, I think you also mentioned that you spend some time actually posing as a child online, right?
Correct. So I am very good at pretending to be a 13 or 14-year-old girl or boy online. I'm pretty good at talking the talk. Along the way, I grew up with the internet. I was born in the 90s, so I didn't have the internet, and then I got the internet. So in my lifespan, I've kind of gotten to see the development of all this technology. So when I first started at the sheriff's office, I was young. Like I said, I was 22 years old. So when we decided to do some of these undercover operations, I was the best at it. And it just kind of became one of those things where I learned the trade and I learned how to talk and how to find people. And after that, we compiled hundreds of arrests in a matter of a few years. And my goal with doing undercover work is basically I want to be that kind of silent shield in between real children and those trying to prey on the children. Kind of like I said in the talk that night, I want them to find me instead of a real kid. If they're going to kind of engage in that grooming process that happens over and over again online, I want them to groom me, because when they groom me and then they show up somewhere, they get to meet all my friends, and it's usually a pretty bad day for them.
So for the parents and the guardians who are listening, we know that kids are on all types of different social media. So in your role, where do you see the most tips coming in?
Sure. So over the last year and a half, 2 years, the big platform that stands out to me is Snapchat. I'm sure if you have a child out there, you understand that they don't text each other anymore. They don't call each other anymore. They snap each other. So when you have everybody kind of, gravitating towards that one application, that for me means that I need to do more work in that application. I need to understand the application more so that I can do my best to pose as an undercover in there, as well as kind of gather some of that critical information to make sure that I can inform the public and my community steps to take so that children can use the application but be safe while they're on there.
So what are some of those steps that people can take?
Yeah, so I'm a big proponent. I'm not a helicopter dad. I don't sit and dig through my kid's phone or iPad or anything like that. I start with trust and I start with communication. So I set expectations for what the usage is, how much time is spent on those applications. And then I make sure my first step is always I'm going to look at the privacy settings of whatever application my kids are using. So the first step that I would take is and it's very, very critical to look at this, make sure that on Snapchat specifically, that the privacy settings are set so that they can only get messages or friend requests from people within their contacts. Now, it's hard for me to articulate right now how to go step by step and find that, but an easy way to go about it is Google privacy settings on Snapchat, and it'll list out all these platforms have done a great job of realizing that they play a role in child safety and internet safety. So they've gone above and beyond to create awesome documentation, step-by-step tutorials on their websites in the safety section and show parents how to take those steps and make sure that their application is secure. Why I say that that's such an important step to block, the random people that can message kids on Snapchat is that the way that kids are being exploited, and the biggest issue right now is it's called sextortion. And what that is, a stranger will reach out to a child on Snapchat. they'll kind of form a bond and a relationship with that child. They'll pretend to be either an attractive woman or an attractive man. And all of a sudden, they have this new friend. They have someone they might be even a little bit attracted to. And once that trust is gained, unfortunately, sometimes images are exchanged between both parties. What happens then is that our suspect, so our predator on the other side, then demands money from the child. Otherwise, they will basically expose those images or the videos that they've been sent to family, to friends, to the school, to the police. And it puts children in a very uncomfortable and desperate spot. And all of the cases that I've worked involving sextortion have come from when a stranger can reach out to the child. Now, if I restrict that access to begin with, and it's only friends, you basically eliminate the possibility of that happening to your child. And in my opinion, it's not a huge ask of your kid not to get, have a stranger reach out to them, because you wouldn't just send them off into a crowd of people and say, yeah, you can go talk to whoever you want to. No parent would do that. And even a teenage boy or girl would have an understanding like, yeah, that's probably not a good idea to do.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned in the talk that stood out to me was the idea that people do things online that they would never do in person. And there's almost a different set of social rules and norms online than there is in person. And I think that's an example of one of them, right? You wouldn't just allow anybody to walk up to your child and have those types of conversations. Yeah.
And if you frame it like that, and when you have those conversations, that's a great way to go about it. That's how you articulate it and kind of show your child, right? Doesn't that make sense? I wouldn't let you do that. So why am I going to let you do that just because you're sitting in your room? You still have all of that access to all these different people that you don't know what their intention is, and you don't really know who they are. So, for example, looking at what people do online as opposed to what they would do in the real world, I have a buddy who constantly harasses the Green Bay Packers. So either Brian Gutekunst or players, he'll go on X and just berate them for how they played or decisions they made in the draft. And I laugh because I can look at him and be like, dude, would you walk up to Brian Gutekunst and tell him how terrible of a job he did in the 2020 draft? Absolutely not. You would not have the ability to go up and do that. So again, they call those trolls. I call him a troll because that's what he is online. Surprised he hasn't gotten banned yet. But they do exist, right? Their whole life revolves around, playing that different role. They have a little bit more power online than they might in real life. So they take advantage of that and they just say whatever they want. Yeah. So the other night, I think I even showed a video that highlights this even better. And I think you have the video, right?
Yeah, we'll play it and get the audio on here.
Welcome to Why'd You Say It? The game is easy. We show you a comment you left on Instagram and ask you the simple question, why'd you say it? All right, Annie, let's start with you. Drew Barrymore previously and famously posted this video on her Instagram.
Whenever you can go out into the rain, do not miss the opportunity!
Just a sweet woman enjoying the rain. And you commented, die. So, why'd you say it?
I meant die. I'm dying. I love this vid so much. I meant slay, but I forgot the word. I saw someone being happy and wanted them to feel the exact opposite.
That's close, but it's not the full answer.
I'm alone a lot. Some days I don't even interact with another human being, and I start wondering, am I dead? Is life even real? So I post comments that I think will get a response from someone because that's the only way to be certain I am alive.
That is correct.
Okay, we get it. It's wrong to leave mean comments or post comments just for clout. I speak for everyone when I say from now on, we're going to be a lot more thoughtful about what we post online.
Awesome. Yeah. It's funny because it's the reality of it. It's a prime example of how people just behave differently online than they would in person. And when you're called out on it, how uncomfortable you could be for saying something like that, right? You don't truly mean it. You just want to feel better about yourself for something that's going on in your own life.
Back to the privacy settings, and thinking back to your talk, you talked about the idea of restricting some of the privacy settings from the beginning, but also you talked about not being overly restrictive from the beginning and giving some trust to your child at first, which honestly surprised me a little bit given what you see on a daily basis. Right. But can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
so I look at it like a two-step format. So I give the trust, I have the privacy settings the way that gives them a little bit more freedom, because in reality, we have to teach kids these days how to be responsible online. It's not just restrict, restrict, restrict. Don't get exposed to new things, new applications, new ideas and things like that. But I just want to make sure that the community that those ideas are being shared in is safe and productive. I don't want it to be a free-for-all, anything goes type of environment, just like I would in everyday life. So that first step is just making sure that their privacy settings are set. Now, if they break that trust and they're still not doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're not showing they can be responsible with it, again, I may not just delete the app and say you're out. That's when I take the next step and I say, okay, then I'm going to do the parental monitoring version of Snapchat. And again, that's one of those things that if you go into Snapchat and you hit the search bar and you type in parent, privacy, security, you'll see the option for the family sharing, basically the parental monitoring system. Well, that does require the parent to have a Snapchat account, and then you need to send that to your child. They need to accept it, and then you have a lot more control. So you're going to be able to control who they message, if they can send Snapchats out. There's a variety of different settings that you can have that definitely restricts it even more. Now, after that, if they're still breaking your trust somehow, then you get rid of it. But the problem that I see is if a child is determined to get on some application, they're going to find a way to do so. So that's when the communication and the trust comes in as well. And I'm a big proponent of making sure those lines of communication stay open at all times. And I tell parents at all time, like, if you overdo it, you can't keep up with what they're doing. They're going to find a way. They're going to find a new application, and they're probably going to do something worse. But if you give them the respect, and if they haven't broken your trust before, you give them that respect and responsibility, they take some ownership of it, and then hopefully they'll make positive, healthy decisions online.
All right. So you talked about Snapchat, and you said that's where most of the kids are. Makes sense. Instagram, Facebook, there's kids on those too, right?
Oh yeah, Instagram is big. And the big thing with Instagram and Facebook is, and everyone probably has a good understanding of this, there's friends lists, there's a followers list. The one privacy setting on there that I would strongly suggest parents take a look at on your kid's account is who can see the friends and followers on both those platforms. Again, it comes back to, say they get in a bad situation and, whether it's sextortion or something like that, the inability to see all the friends and reach out to other people kind of eliminates a big chunk of the problem, right? Because it's very restricted to just, that child's profile. Getting rid of any, major identifying information on there is a big deal. Obviously, locations, school is on Facebook. I know that's not the most popular application with teens these days. But even with parents, if you have some connection, so on a daily basis, when I do investigations, I jump from profile to profile, and I can pretty much figure out who is who and who has connections with who just from jumping from friends of friends and onward and upward from there, right? So to think that just your child needs to be restricted is completely wrong. Like I'm a big proponent of, locking down friends lists and locking down who can see things on my profile unless they're friends with me. Because again, I'm going to go back to like a real situation. I'm not going to leave all of my doors, windows, blinds, shades open for everybody to see. I'm not living in a glass house for a reason. I have walls, I have bedroom doors, I have bathroom doors. I have all those things that restrict people's access. So there's no reason why I shouldn't do that with my online identity as well, right? I just think, again, and you touched on it, there's this perspective that, the things that happen on the internet, it's just a different world, right? And people have a hard time picturing themselves in a reality that focuses on how is my digital identity similar to my real identity. I wouldn't let a stranger just walk into my house, just like I wouldn't let a stranger just look at all of the photos that I've posted. Or I don't have either of those platforms. I I have them at work, and I don't like looking at stuff when I'm at home necessarily. But again, I wouldn't let a stranger in. So why would I let a stranger take a peek into my entire world and get to see everything that I'm doing? You know what I mean? So, framing it in reality kind of helps everybody digest kind of the lesson of that. So those are the two big ones, is locking down the friends list, and then locking down who can see your posts and everything like that.
And I think Facebook and Instagram maybe too, both, because they're both owned by Meta, have like a privacy checkup thing that you can go through. Am I right about that?
They do, yep. And they also have very robust privacy like instructions. So you can go to their sites too. And what's happening with these platforms is there's a lot of lobbying groups for the good guys now that are going to Congress, going to Senate, and they're going to these hearings, and they're trying to hold these social media platforms accountable for their lack of security for kids. So you'll see like TikTok, whether it exists or not in the future, if you sign up and you put in that you're under 13 years old, that's a completely different platform than above 13 years old. Same goes for Instagram, Facebook, and even Snapchat too now, is if you sign up and you put the real age in there, which everybody should, especially the children should put them in there, you're going to get a different platform, and they're going to have automatic privacy settings already implemented into that application. So another tip, if your child is signing up for any platform, make sure that you're there and present, and making sure that you're part of that process, because you want to make sure they're not putting, I was born in 1905. You should put in the real year so that they get the appropriate level of access that they should, because these companies do spend some time and money to figure out what settings are healthy for kids and what should we be doing. Because the reality is they're going to be held accountable in the near future here based on what I am reading and hearing in the research that I do. For some of these sextortion issues and some of these other things that are happening, they're going to be financially liable for a lot of this if some of these laws get enacted in the future.
So as a parent, let's say your child comes up to you and is worried about something that's going on online with them on social media, or they are being maybe groomed or were sent something inappropriate. How do you respond to that as a parent?
Yeah, so it really depends on the situation. So if they're in an uncomfortable interaction with someone they don't know, the first thing you do is call law enforcement. You call 911, you get someone to come, because we're lucky in this area that we have so many well-trained investigators in the internet crimes against children world that they will find somebody to help you in a hurry. And ICAC is unique because, in my position, I can call anyone in the United States, and if they work ICAC, they'll drop everything to help me. And it's something that people have a passion for. So when there's someone in need, you're going to get great service when it relates to a child in an exploitation type case. So that's your first step, is call someone, get someone in there. Second of all, you really want to just make sure that your child knows that they're safe, that everything's going to be okay, that anything that happened, doesn't change your perspective on them, that you're their parent, their guardian, and that you'll love them no matter what, and that your job as a parent or guardian is to now make sure that they are safe and that they're comfortable. And then let's figure out what steps we need to take to make sure this doesn't happen again. Now, if you make sure you go on and check out all the applications, look at the privacy settings, hopefully that'll never be the case. But there are situations that come up that you can't avoid with privacy settings. I think about, cyberbullying, for instance, or even just exposure to social media in general can be harmful for a child's mentality and make them self-conscious. And I know I talked that night about what people see on social media is the ideal situation. It's everyone's perfect day. It's everyone's the greatest gift they ever got on Christmas, or the best vacation they've ever had. But that's not always the reality of someone's life. And when kids get exposed to that over and over and over and over again, and maybe they're not getting that gift, or maybe they haven't went on that vacation, or they don't have that certain look that someone has, that can dramatically deteriorate a child's self-confidence and their self-esteem. And for me, both as a detective and as a parent, I want to see our world, our society, and our kids grow up in a place that they feel like they're deserving of respect and love, and that what they're doing on a day-to-day basis is good enough. It's what they are here to do. And to try to emulate the things they see online, is probably impossible because, like I said, they're getting the perfect version of someone that sat around and made everything look just right in the background and made sure their hair was just right. Well, I don't roll out of bed looking like that. My house is never perfectly clean. My kitchen, I think I brought up in the talk too, like you see these cooking videos and everyone's chopping on a nice quartz clean countertop and everything's immaculate. Well, guess what? No one's dusting and cleaning every single day. That doesn't happen. Nothing's perfect. But social media, the world of social media always looks perfect. And that can be really tough on kids, right? Because it's the trying to keep up with the Joneses mentality of why don't I have that? Why don't I look like that? When in the reality is, that may not be the reality.
Agree. Well, I even think as an adult, if I catch myself doom scrolling and I check my mood, like I can feel it go down for all of those same reasons. Like my kitchen isn't that clean. Like I don't look as good as this guy does, right? And as an adult, I can check myself and I have the wisdom to think like, well, comparison is the thief of joy, right? Like this is a very curated version of somebody's probably not actual reality. But as a 13, 14, 15-year-old version of myself, I wonder how I would have reacted to that. And that's what our kids live with now.
Yeah, and they live with it every day because they have so much access to it. What's funny to me is like I have Snapchat and I've got a bunch of friends, on Snapchat. Some of them never snap anything out until they're on vacation. And I go, they must be on vacation because I'm getting a Snapchat of them somewhere else.
Yeah, that's me as a social media user too, right? Like yeah. I'm guilty.
Yeah. And it's no fault of anybody that they do that, but I just think it's so funny that that's what gets shared when nothing else does. And that's just the reality of social media too, right? Like that's kind of what it's there for, is to share the cool moments and share the fun things that are happening. But unfortunately what that does too, and to your point, is you get that emotional step back and you're like, oh man, I'm not on vacation. I didn't go on vacation this year. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. Am I doing everything right? Right? Why are they doing that and I'm not? So yeah, you're right. As a 13, 14, 15-year-old, it's hard to grasp that concept, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that message is key, as well as the safety message about privacy settings, is being able to have those types of conversations with your kids too.
For sure. Yeah. And screen time. I'm guilty. Everyone's guilty of it. No one's perfect with screen time. But I think in 10, 15 years, we're going to look back as a society and go, the worst thing that ever happened to us were the screens. I think it's going to be one of those things that we all realize the difference between the generation that didn't have screens 24/7 and spent 6 hours a day on them, whether that's in school or at home, at night in bed, early in the morning. I mean, I know there's people that get up, first thing they do is check their phone. They get to work, check their phone, and if it's social media and you're constantly exposed to it, I mean, what that can do, to your mentality and to your, just your overall growth as a human being. I've got a box at home that you just put your phone in it. I turn my volume up in case I get a call, but it sits in there. I see enough at work. I can just put it in the box, and I'm hoping, my family kind of gets involved with it and put their phone in the box. And it's amazing what happens when all the phones are put away. And parents and guardians need to realize that you're setting the example. So I can't be mad at my kids if I'm sitting there scrolling on the couch and one's on an iPad and one's scrolling on their phone. I have no right to be upset that they're also sitting there scrolling. Until I put my phone down and I give them my attention, that's on me. And I did share in the talk too, there was kind of a cool video where a guy shows a calendar of your life in months, and it has like the average age. And then he goes through and he says, okay, this is how many months you're going to have at work. This is how many months. And again, it's in time, right? So it's like 24 hours in a day, 30, 31 days in a month. he breaks it down into how many months technically you're at work, how many months technically you're using the bathroom, how many months technically you're in the shower, how many months you are sleeping at work, so on and so on. And then he says at the end of it, if everything continues the way it does in society right now, kids on average will spend another, I think it was 75% of their time looking at a screen. And then he filled in that calendar with that 75% of the months left. And it left most people with 2 months of life total to truly live outside of their screen time. And for me, that was a real eye opener, because it really puts into perspective for not only myself, but for my family unit as well, is like, hey, and then there's another statistic that always blows my mind is by the time your child is 12 years old, you've spent 75% of your time with them in total, which when I combine those two things together, if that doesn't kind of shake you to your core and make you want to put your phone down and pay attention to what really matters, I don't know what does.
That might be the mic drop moment there. Before we go, are there any other, I guess, tips that come to mind or things that you want our parents and guardians out there or kids out there, the kids get this too, to know?
So for the kids, for the students, my big takeaway is this, is for one, look out for each other. Realize that you play a role in everybody's life. And if you see something negative happening online, you do not know how your friend is going to react to it. You can't just assume that it's just playful, that it's okay, that they're not being hurt by it. Check in on your friends. Make sure that if you see anything online, that it's not cyberbullying, that they're not feeling harassed, because a lot of times they may not express that to you, that they are truly feeling hurt. So that's one of the big things. Just look out for one another. Make sure that everyone feels safe and confident and good about themselves, right? Like I brought up before, with everything on social media, our self-esteem is already kind of takes a downgrade right off the bat. The second thing is if you ever feel uncomfortable in a situation online, you are not alone. You're never alone. There are hundreds of people just like me. My whole job is to hunt down terrible people that try to exploit kids all over the world. You're not alone. Your parents are there for you. Your guardians are there for you. Your siblings are there for you, and your friends are there for you. So if you're not comfortable talking to someone in law enforcement right away, tell somebody. Just tell somebody you trust, and they will make sure that you're taken care of. There is nothing that you cannot figure out. As long as you are safe and at home and around people that care and love for you, you will be okay. The things that happen online, they can be taken care of. And like I said, there are plenty of people out there that are well-trained and ready to react to problem situations. You are truly never alone.
I want to put in a plug right now too for Speak Up, Speak Out, which is the Department of Justice's tip line that we use here at Kaukauna High School, call it SUSO. It's our anonymous tip line. We've got QR codes up all around the school. There's a number you can text. There's communication that's gone out about it. It's on our school website. But that's a way to anonymously report too. Like if you have a concern, if you're concerned about somebody else, that alerts school admin and our SRO so that we can start working on it and also get people connected who can help, like people like Mike and the people he works with too. So
yeah, absolutely. And for parents, because I know you asked some about parents too, like what's my thought for them is take this seriously. Don't just ignore it. It's not a free for all. I can speak from experience, and I'm not trying to just frighten people, but there are a lot of bad actors out there that want to take advantage of your children. And it truly is up to us to make sure that we're not putting them in a situation to fail. Again, going back to reality, I wouldn't let my now 9-year-old get behind a car, and start driving. I wouldn't put her in that situation. Now she's pretty short, so she's not reaching the pedals. And who knows if she'll get there even when she's 16, I don't know. But I wouldn't set her up to fail. And this is no different than that. So it truly is up to us to take those steps and make sure that they are informed as to the dangers and what can happen. Be honest and be real. I also see a lot of parents that either ignore it or B, don't want to have those conversations because they're afraid of freaking out their kids. Well, I hate to break it to you, but a little bit of fear does kind of go a long way. And when we've talked about it, I talked to the faculty about it. I am by no means a proponent of axing all of the technology. I think if you don't understand technology, we talked about ChatGPT and things like that. If you don't know about that stuff, you're just going to be left in the dust, because that is our reality. That's our future, is all of that. But as parents, we also should take some time and understand, the applications that our kids are using. And you should know every application on your kid's phone. Like that is a right. Unless they pay for that phone and unless they move out of your house, you have every right to look at that phone and know what they're using. I get texts all the time from fellow employees and from other parents asking, do you know what this app is? Is it safe? What do I do about it? And a lot of times I'll be like, I have no idea, but did you Google it yet? Because just because I know what I know doesn't mean that, everybody else can't go out and look and figure out what an app does and what the privacy settings are. Like I said, a simple Google search will get you, 90% of the way. And if there's still questions after that, then you find someone who's an expert in it and maybe they can walk you through how to get there. But you really do need to take the time and understand the things that your children are doing, on their phones and on their computers and whatnot.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. I also think, given what you see on a daily basis and the work you've dedicated your life to, the tips that you're giving for our parents and guardians out there and for the students carry a lot of weight. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you giving me a platform to, hopefully communicate everything that I need to communicate to people, because like I said in the beginning, a lot of people kind of just go through, this life and all the new changes in technology and ignore, all of these things until it's a problem. And then it's the worst day that they've had in a long time, or it could be the worst day they've ever had. And to be able to just express some of these simple things that can help families navigate what is this complex, weird, interesting, funny, productive, unproductive world that is the internet and is social media. It's just important to get the word out and make sure that all of our kids are safe out there.
Yeah. And one thing that stands out to me, you mentioned there are simple things you can do to navigate the complex world of this. And they really are just simple, basic steps and conversations to be able to have as a parent.
Correct.
Which is empowering. It's not as hard as maybe it feels like it could be.
Right. It seems overwhelming, but it's really not. It could take you 15 minutes to look up how to do it and another 10 minutes to put those settings on those applications. And then you have at least a little bit of comfort and ease of mind that you've taken a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Couple that with some of the talking points that you've given parents today.
Absolutely.
That's a great start.
No doubt.
So thank you. We're glad you're a ghost as well. So Thank you for being on the Ghost Stories podcast. And again, just thank you for being here and sharing.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That's the interview. A huge thank you to Detective Sewall, not just for sharing his expertise, but also for everything he does on a daily basis to keep our kids safe. As we talked about today, keeping kids safe online doesn't have to be overwhelming. There's small steps, open conversations, and ways to stay involved that can make all the difference. So whether you're a parent, a guardian, or a student, we hope you walk away from this episode more informed, more confident, and maybe a little empowered. Thanks for listening to Ghost Stories. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. And until next time, it's a great day to be a ghost.